Okay, let's just go ahead and kick off then. So thanks to everybody for being here. And let's make your PTAs huge because we know every PTA needs volunteers. How do we get them? How do we keep them? Go back always to the mission, values, leadership, priorities, planning, communication, and the culture and climate. Those are some of our core tenets of PTA. Every time we take actions or do anything, we want to make sure that we back this up back to our priorities and exactly what we're working on in PTA. What are our core tenets? If you invest the time now to plan for the future of your PTA, it will pay off. So everybody who's probably having elections right now, or it might be an off year. So you're going to invite some new officers or you're looking for volunteers. So what you want to do is make sure that you're inviting all those people in. And you're not going to have the biggest meetings of the year unless you already have a big PTA from your February through your May meetings. But you are going to in the August. So if the people who are coming in as officers make the time now to do the plans or get it all planned out up through June, it's going to pay off for you for the rest of the year. So number one complaint there, no one comes to our meetings. Well, what do your meetings actually look like? What's the agenda? Are our meetings about content or are they about committee work? If we're talking about the fall carnival, if we're talking about room parties, if we're talking about the science fair, and I don't want to volunteer for any of those things, what is the value of me showing up to that meeting? A lot of times that committee work can be done in the committee or via email. Instead, if you want to get people actually into your room, you provide them with programs. You provide them with programs that your parents have said, your families have said, this is important to me. I don't understand the math curriculum. I don't understand what's going on. What is the health wellness Healthy Kids Colorado survey? What is true diversity? LGBTQ, that's another one of those. Suicide prevention, school safety. Those are all things that pull pretty high that parents actually want on a regular basis. What value do we get to help our children by coming to your meeting? That's really important. If it's going to be a committee meeting and I don't volunteer, I'm not likely to show back up again. And are we stuck in a rut? Are we just kind of moving by the seat of our pants, trying to catch up? We're only sending the agenda out to people a few days before our meetings. We don't have a program. That's going to be a problem. So we want to make sure that we're giving people value for their time so that they at least feel like it was important. Their time was important. And are we allowing multiple voices? We have frequent problems with PTAs around the nation and even in the European Council, who it gets stuck with the core group of people. Anybody seen the movie Bad Moms? It's been a little while, but yeah. So they took over the PTA. So because it was a core group of people who decided how everything was going to be, and it kind of ended up being almost a bullying situation. If we're doing that, we're not going to attract other people. So we have to be as welcoming as we can. Have we surveyed our membership to actually find out what they want? What do they want to learn? I'm actually in the process with my HOA right now, so another volunteer job, but sending out a survey to see what do people want. Now, don't send out a survey if you're going to send everything out and then not follow what their feedback is. You need to have responsiveness back and forth after they give you their opinions. So that's a really important one. Are the meetings accessible? We've had PTAs right here in Jeffco and other places struggle because they decided to have the meetings during the middle of the day while the kids were at school and none of the teachers could come because they were teaching school. They were teaching our children. In the evenings, that's why school board meetings are in the evenings. Unfortunately, we don't have our commissioner meetings in Jeffco in the evenings. They're pretty much during the day. That's why a lot of people don't attend unless they have a beef about something. So we want to make the meetings accessible when people can come. And I put that in there. Don't forget the T. Those are your teachers, Parent Teacher Association. It's supposed to be a collaboration. And are we communicating adequately? There's lots of different ways to communicate with your membership, but your membership should have emails from you at least once a month so they know what's going on. And if for some reason I can't come to your meeting, I'm a member and I still deserve to know what's going on. So a little summary, the minutes just your membership, that's great. Are the meetings enjoyable to attend? That can be hard. Every single one of us on here has been involved in PTA for a while. Have sat through a meeting that was painful. In fact, one of our former superintendents, don't even have to say anything because we've had so many superintendents since around 2012. We've had so many superintendents, you won't necessarily be able to guess this, but one of our superintendents did say our meetings were painful to attend in the past, but they always felt like they wanted to come because they really wanted that partnership with parents. So if people feel like that during our meeting, it's not going to do any of us any good. Now, who's in the room? So if we dig deeper, so to remember that even if there are only few people that are there, they are there. And we have to show our appreciation for the people who are in the room and know that they are appreciated, their time is appreciated. And we are so thankful that they spent the time with us. Positive messages, positive attitudes is going to attract others. So we walk around saying, nobody comes, nobody volunteers, nobody does this. I'm so tired. I get it, been there. So especially after you've been president for 4 years at a local unit PTA, you're exhausted. So, but you can't say that during the meeting when you're representing the business, and it is a business. So we want to make sure that we're positive attitudes, having fun. It's a good place to go. I will just use, is Granberry still on here? Jennifer Granberry? So I just use her as an example. So she is,
I'm here.
okay, there we go. I have been chasing Jen Granberry for a while. So, to get her on the Jeffco PTA during my turn, because she is fun. She is just fun. And really, I mean, she's one of those people she's honest, she's outgoing, she's also funny, so hysterical. You're going to be laughing no matter what. And she might bring a little, negative jokes and stuff like that into it. But Jen attracts people. So I started chasing her quite a while ago. And then I'll just bring Kay, use her for an example too. Chased her. She made the mistake of making eye contact with me at a meeting. And initially I wasn't sure if she liked what I was saying or not what I was saying when I was at their meeting, but she made eye contact. And then she nodded her head and I went, okay, there we go. So she's also a ton of fun, super organized. And those are the people that you just start bringing in. So if somebody makes eye contact with you, that's the time to go and have a conversation with them. Gosh, go to Starbucks with them if you can, go for drinks, whatever you want to do, and bring them in, make them feel welcome and make them feel part of the group. Just like our kids want to be a part of, whether it's theater or band or, sports, whatever it is, adults also want to find their group. And I will say from our PTA in elementary school, there is a group of us that were all in the different classes. And we all ended up going to different middle schools, different high schools. They are still my very best friends. So, and everything that I've done since then, I can always count on that same group. Even if they were not on my boards with PTAs with me, they would help. And they've helped my current nonprofit too. So those are really important. And our mission is PTA. Repeat that again and again and again. And it doesn't hurt to put it on the agenda on a regular basis or put it at the bottom of your emails. So our core mission is the children. So we're advocating for children. We're making every child's potential a reality. Everyone in that school, not just because we all like each other and these are our favorite kids and we do activities that we know we're all going to be involved in. Every kid in that school. So we go back to that. Then we take our values, collaboration, commitment, diversity, respect, accountability. Doesn't hurt to include that on those agendas or on those emails either. Those are our core tenets. Put them in front of you when you're at the meeting so that you're always remembering. Sometimes PTA meetings can get heated if people disagree with things. If we go back to that, then we know that we're going to handle this from a good place. Collaboration. We may not always agree. It's going to be the majority is going to rule, but the minority deserves to be heard, and that's important. Obviously, the main leaders have their commitment. Hopefully, we'll tell you it's a really fun workshop that happened years and years ago. And we did fall training and we were doing things in person still. And our lovely, lovely treasurer at the time told everybody during the treasurer training, if you're not going to do the job, you've come to this training, it sounds overwhelming, you're scared, you don't think will do it, or you won't follow through, then resign so that somebody else can take the position. Particularly that president and treasurer, you could have the two most committed people to the PTA, because those jobs are crucial to your PTA. Everybody else can support those people as much as they possibly can, and appreciate the work that they're doing, because it is very much overwhelming. So if you're doing it right, but it's really worth the work. What is our PTA doing? So what are we doing with our PTA? Are we aligned with our mission and our values? If we're just focused on, pieces and parts, if we're only focused on committees, is that really about collaboration and commitment, diversity, respect, and accountability? Yeah, you're going to have to do a little bit of committee work beforehand, but not everybody who wants to come to your PTA meeting will be part of that. So get them there with programs and things that benefit them and are a good use of their time. And from there, then you build on that and have them talked into becoming volunteers. So because they're having fun with your group and now they feel a sense of belonging, and that's really important. Now, what does our PTA do? How are we inviting others into our PTA and our meetings? Review your full communications plan. And you really should have a communications plan. A lot of this at the local units falls into either your secretary or president. Some are lucky enough to have a separate communications person, but most it falls into your secretary and president. Those communications are crucial. How are you inviting people? Are you sending emails regularly to all of your members to make sure that they know that they're welcome and what's going to happen at the meeting? And you're giving them at least a week in advance to plan what is going on. If you've done your planning beforehand, by the end of June, and you know what your programming is going to be for the entire year, and you're just filling those spots in those meetings, because there's only about 8 of them. So that's only planning for 8 meetings. If you've got that done in advance and you can send out the information and saying these are what our meetings will be about and these are the dates and times, you're more likely to get people there. If you give, less than a week's notice, people may not come. Now, you always start with that plan, and this is why I talk about this too. You've got your new officers coming in. You're going to change leadership a lot of times on July 1st, and you have new people. Strategic planning is a big part of this. You don't have to write up a big, massive plan. This is only about identifying what are our strengths. What are they? Do we have a good, amount of capital? Do we have a good amount of funds in our bank? Whoops.
I'm coming up. Let's do it.
I think somebody's unmuted there. What are our strengths? Is it the people? We have some really good volunteers who are really just going. What are our weaknesses? So do we have a treasurer who's not showing up, who hasn't given us an adequate financial report for a while? We haven't seen bank statements. If we haven't, maybe they just dropped off the face of the earth and we don't know where our financial records go. Unfortunately, that's a big one that happens to lots of PTAs. We need to address those things so that we can move forward into the year, because we have to operate as a legal entity as well. Weaknesses, maybe we don't have funds, so we're going to work on fundraising. What are the opportunities that we have this year? Great. So maybe we're, have a new school coming in and joining with ours at the end of the year. So that's an opportunity because they had a PTA too. Maybe there's some other people there. Maybe we're getting a new principal. Maybe one of our other opportunities is we have not partnered with our teachers for a while. Let's sit down and partner with our teachers, go to a staff meeting, talk to them about PTA and ask for their help. We are definitely doing help and assistance for their classroom and their activities as most PTAs. So how do we make sure that we can help pull the parents back into PTA? Stronger PTA is going to benefit the school, the teachers, the admin, and your kids. So that's wonderful. What are your threats? Do you have two warring factions? Do you have some folks who are anti-public school? I mean, what are they? PTAs don't tend to have a lot of threats. Most of the time. So occasionally we have some little issues. But for the most part, when you have those things that happen, you have a council. Here in Jeffco, we're so lucky. We have a council PTA where we have all these AAVPs and board members who can jump in and help you and fix things. Now, starting with that plan, we meet and review the activities of the PTA that we've had before. We're going to sit down and do that. So do it over Starbucks, do it over drinks at somebody's house, whatever you want to do, whatever works for you, but do it in advance. If you can get to that meeting, talk things through, really come up with that plan, and you can send a few more emails back and forth, you can set your plan again for the entire year, and then you're ready to go. Meet with your principal and teachers, getting their feedback, that first staff meeting of the year, just to make sure we've got that partnership solidified. Maybe we meet with them in May. Hey, these are the new officers of our PTA. We'd like to come to your first staff meeting. A lot of times I came in and brought, breakfast for welcome back for staff members when on their first day back. And then we presented PTA to them. Use that principal handbook that's on the Jeffco PTA website so we can explain to principals that we are not just a fundraising arm to just give you money on a regular basis. That's not how it works. We most certainly do a lot of fundraising and we support a lot of programs and things for all the kids at our schools, but we want to make sure that everything that we do, it complies with our mission values. Not only that, but our IRS legal requirements. So lots of things like good ideas, but some of the things are not things the IRS allows, and some things are things that PTA actually does not allow. So prior to the start of the year, that is very, very important. And it's fine to end activities. If no one's assisting with them, if you don't have a lot of people coming, make a good faith effort. But if it just isn't happening, so nobody's volunteering for the reading incentives program, nobody's volunteering to lead safety patrol, whatever it is that you're doing, it's okay to end a program if you've made a good faith effort. But it can't just be, I'm tired, I don't feel like doing it. So I didn't bother sending emails. I didn't bother asking multiple times. We haven't had multiple meetings about this. Don't end programs until you know for sure so that you've made that good faith effort. And then you communicate that to your membership before you do that. Here we go again. We have maybe 8 meetings a year, right? Some of the things that I changed during my tenure at Jeffco PTA, and I did that at my local units before then, was it is ridiculous to try to have a meeting in December. There are a limited number of days before we go on winter break. We've just come back from Thanksgiving break. Things are crazy at the school. There's usually lots of performances. If kids have activities outside of school, there's even more juggling. So you'll get almost no people to your December meeting. So give people December off. Do what really matters. Think about when you're going to hold that first meeting, because you really can't go forward with your budget, taking care of expenses until you have a vote of the membership, the new membership at the beginning of your fiscal year to approve that budget. And everybody has to be a member to vote. Remember that one too. We have 8 opportunities to draw a crowd. So rethink May meetings as well, because again, all of us who are parents know what that looks like in schools when we're talking about field days and performances at school and end of the year and class parties, and everybody's changing grades. The kids are a little bit stressed. They're a little tired, and maybe we have some summer fever going on. So that can be one of those issues as well. So consider not having that meeting, and your June meeting can just be your board. You do not need to invite your entire membership, because you're just going to be, as your 4-member, maybe 5-member board, sometimes 3-member board, making the plans on how you're going to attack the next year for success. What does a survey, if we send out a survey, what does a survey tell us that our family wants? What do they want? Do they want a science fair? Are they willing to volunteer for it? Do we have a lot of volunteers sign up? If we didn't do a survey, what interesting and educational topics can we provide from subject matter experts? So, and again, I went over some of those items that are really important to you. really important to families that poll number one again and again and again. I'll give you my contact information. I volunteer for PTAs on a regular basis with my other nonprofit outside of Jeffco PTA. How are we inviting people into our PTA? You partner with the principals and your teacher so that we're sending out the information to our families. So, and remember, every time you use language, families versus parents. Not every child has parents taking care of them. They're guardians. So they're guardians. Sometimes grandparents are taking care of kids. Sometimes it's an aunt or an uncle who are taking care of the kids. So be inclusive and say families. Don't just pigeonhole yourself to parents. Holding the PTA tables, this kind of stopped during COVID, and we really do need to go back to some of this. Kindergarten nights, when all the kindergarten parents are coming in, getting ready, and maybe that's in the spring as well. You should be partnering with your principal and kindergarten teacher to make sure PTA president or somebody from the PTA is to come in and say, hey, this is who we are. This is what we do. We can make some brochures for you, hand them out so that they know the importance of PTA, and we get them involved from the very beginning. If you have a preschool at your school, start them at the very beginning. Be inclusive and bring them into your community so that they can be involved as part of your school community and part of your PTA community. Back to school nights, curriculum nights, you've got to have those tables. So thank goodness for all of our husbands who have sat at I don't know how many PTA tables over the years when we had to go give speeches or whatever, or they went to parent teacher conferences while we sat at the table. So it's a juggling act for sure, but it's absolutely worth it, because the more volunteers you get, the more people you get pulled into this, the less work it is for you. Now, who shows up and how do we keep them there and keep them coming? Again, we go back to that. What value are we giving these people for their time? Are the leaders accessible, or are they sitting separate for attendees? And again, we've all sat in different PTA meetings. Sometimes we have a PTA board who will sit themselves up at a table in front of everybody. There's not necessarily anything wrong with that. If that works for you, okay. So initially at my elementary PTA, when we were there, we did not have a lot of people coming to our PTA meeting. So, and I really, really hated that we're in charge when I became president and sit in front of you. So we instead sat around the room in different locations so that we were sitting with other community members and had opportunities to talk to everybody at our tables. And again, one of the things I said with our AAVPs coming in, those are your best friends. So as a local unit leader, your AAVPs. So if you put those people who are leaders at your tables, you bring them in, and that's how you attract and you keep people. Now, what's the program? Are we committing the committee work separate and making sure that if something should have been an email, it should be an email, and we're not wasting meeting time for everybody who's not participating there? But asking attendees every single time, is there anything you want to be involved in? But if you turn around a sign-in sheet, you make sure that every single person on that sign-in sheet gets an email or a phone call. If you do a survey, you follow up with that. Are we communicating on social media? Now, social media has changed a lot just over the last few years. Facebook pages, you definitely do not want to put your PTA into a group page, because then it's not inclusive. It's not accessible. There's nothing we put on our Facebook page that is not that should not be accessible to everyone, because again, we're trying to bring them in to our group and grow a stronger school community to benefit our kids. That's really important. We need to give adequate notice. We probably need to give multiple notices. One of the rules of thumb in communications is when you're telling people about something and you really want to get their attention and get their attendance, get them to participate, telling them 3 times is key. And maybe it's in different ways, but at least 3 different times. So we want to make sure we do that. We give adequate notice. Everybody has the meetings all the way through the beginning of the year, just like Jeffco PTA does. We announce our programs, what we're going to be having. But then we need to continue going forward. Social media has changed with those pages. So on Facebook and on Instagram right now, in that business pages, they're called businesses, whatever the pages are, even if it's for a nonprofit, don't get as high of a ranking as your own friends. So we're going to have to do a little bit extra effort. And I love that. Actually, I'm going to use Jen as an example here too. One of the things she always puts in her board report, so, and a lot of us do this, sharing the social media posts from our Facebook page to make sure that our friends all see that too. Just like with the silent auction we have going on now, if anybody here doesn't know about the silent auction, it's really important for you to go and look at those Facebook page or go to the website and you'll see all those things available. Newsletters are crucial. We also help the school when we send out email newsletters because the school also depends on parents to read their emails. Far too many are not reading their emails. So if we normalize that, that's regular content, then we can get more people to follow into that. Now, not everyone will volunteer for your PTA, but just showing up deserves that appreciation. So make sure you end everything making people feel welcomed and valued and appreciated and thanked for attending and giving up their time. Volunteer placement is another one of those. I did start at our elementary school a volunteer coordinator position so that we could send out those surveys and we could get a list of all the different people who wanted to volunteer. And we sent that out through the school. Some of the volunteers did not even join the PTA, but they still volunteered for our various events. So thankfully, we have a great partnership with my multiple principals, so who I've had, over the years. Unfortunately, I had several, but I had really great principals as well. We find out what they're interested in. What is their interest? What do they want to know about? Do they not understand how to do the math curriculum? Because that's a common problem. We don't understand how the math curriculum works. That goes over and over again. I actually had years ago for a Colorado PTA for a grant project that we did here, really great presentation that we did, kind of explaining that the memes from Common Core math. So Common Core is just a set of standards. So people don't understand what a lot of those things are, which is why we go ahead and put that information out. Using the surveys, again, this is a really important one. Don't send out a survey if you won't use the data. And you may get complaints in the survey. People don't like something. They don't like, there's not adequate notice. It feels clicky. Don't take it personal. So try to sit down, together. Don't take it personal. Let's figure out, did they like it? What did they like? What don't they like? And we use that in our planning for the next year. Parent and family interest survey, that's a big one. Deciding on the categories that you want to offer. Maybe we make our priorities for the year when we sit down. For me, it was school safety, diversity, and mental health. So that's what we set as our priorities when I became president of Jeffco PTA. And all of our programs were about that, about those subjects. And provide real examples for people too. To volunteer for something, don't just say, oh, secretary is not a big deal. So you just come to the meetings and, take some basic minutes and that's it. No, your secretary's description is in the bylaws and it's going to say that what she needs to do in the bylaws, she needs to have the bylaws with her. She needs to have access to all the documents and she really should be sitting real close to the president, or if it's a, open friendly meeting. So be comfortable enough to say, oh, Amy, that's not, how that works per our bylaws. We have to do this. And that's okay. So, but make sure that we're giving people real examples and not saying, oh, it's no big deal. You just do this, this, and this. Give them real examples. Let the past chair of that committee walk through it with them. And again, don't send out a survey if you're not going to use the data. Training the volunteers, set up a separate, training meeting for anybody who's doing science fair, anybody who's doing fall carnival, anybody who's doing field day, any of those things. You can recruit at the first meeting of the year and then have a separate volunteer training meeting. So, or maybe one-on-ones with your existing leaders. Be careful about your acronyms and informational language. One of the things I built on the Jeffco PTA website way back when, and people still use it and continue to email me about it, even though you guys are all here. So where is that acronym list? Can we borrow it? Because if we use too many acronyms, people have no idea what we're talking about. So if we're going over the heads of the parents in the meeting and the heads of the families in the meeting, we haven't had a successful meeting. It's not accessible. We can't talk about the DRA test. We can't talk about the MAP test. We can't talk about CMAS test. We need to explain what all of these things are, especially to our younger parents. Evaluating volunteers too, make sure that we give that informal feedback. Hey, you did a really great job. Again, we're being really welcoming to them. So looks like maybe we had a few things, that we could improve, not with you personally, with the activity, but do an evaluation with your volunteers about the activities that you're having, what worked, what didn't. Have a formal process that we can go through and make things better, not just, Shauna, I hated how you did that, so fix it, or just don't have it again. We're not going to attack individual people. We're going to collaborate and make things better for the benefit, again, of our kids. Evaluation process, you're going to look at events and activities, success of volunteers, and informing the team of concerns and issues. Every once in a while, PTAs have had problems with some of our volunteers who were not very welcoming, or there have been a few over the years, it doesn't happen very often, who wanted to take over a PTA and do everything their way. We get through that with help from our friends at the council when that happens. Volunteer appreciation is tied to volunteer retention, 100%. What is their individual impact? We have to provide flexibility because not everybody's going to be able to come to every one of the evening meetings. We've got kids. We have to figure out daycare. Maybe we offer daycare in there. Maybe we make, pay a student to let the kids paint in the back of the art room while we do this. But recognition, and it should be personal. And hopefully your own PTA, those people who are coming every month, if you get a big draw at your August, September meeting, but it slows down. You may not know everybody in August or September, but throughout the year, everybody who's coming to those meetings, you should know a lot about them beyond their name. Formal recognition, it doesn't cost that much to create certificates and thank people for the special people that they are. Really good example right here too. Part of the reason I actually recruited Amy Sapphire, a beautiful president, is that she is literally a ray of sunshine. So she is a delight. Yeah, she is. So there you go. You really are. She brightens up rooms. So that's really important. Everybody adds something to our group. And even having volunteer events to appreciate people. Now, we do have the Center for Family Engagement at National PTA. They have a lot of good programs that PTAs can sign up for, learn more about. There's the other, they just changed it again. It was a program that they had for a little while. It went away. They brought it back. But it's the Gold Star, basically Gold Star School. Sarah Roberts, I think you've got it for Hackberry Hill PTA this last time. When it first started out with all of that.
Blue ribbon.
Yep. Yes.
Blue ribbon.
Yes. So when it first started out, it was just forms and forms and forms that we were completing. And I think that's why a lot of people did not work on that. Now, the Center for Family Engagement is actually not part of that program. But these are some of the tenets, which is why we go back to some of the Gates grants and stuff like this too. Are we being inclusive? Are things individual, or are we making sure that we're meeting the needs of everybody? If we're always talking about just the GT kids in a neighborhood school, and we have a GT center, but we have neighborhood, kids in there too, and we're only GT parents who are volunteering, that it becomes a big problem. So, and those of us who are those GT parents can absolutely monopolize meetings. So we want to make sure that we get people from every group. Not only that, but you have a special education center in your school. How are we involving those people? That happens in a lot of schools. So diversity, how does your community look? Are we similar to that? One of the schools that we went to, long ago, I will say had a 14-member board that was pretty much a group of very, very wealthy parents who ran the PTA. That was a 14-member board. If you went to a PTA meeting, you soon found out that the group of the popular parents went out and had margaritas together after every PTA meeting. And then slowly, as they liked different people, they would invite some others to come along, but not others. But the information was out there. So nobody but friends of this particular group. In fact, at one point, I had somebody introduced with their address to show that they were good enough to be part of the group. So those are problems. integrated, connecting and aligning with the educational system. So we don't want to detract from our schools, what's trying to go there. So we're not going to come in and talk about the math curriculum that we can't understand the blocks and the ones and the tens and the five, so or the hundreds. We're not going to go against that. What we do want to do is bring our parents in to explain. Bring your instructional coach, bring, one of the teachers that does, the math coaching and stuff in there to your meeting, and do a unit on that, and then explain the data science that shows us the reason why we've changed a lot of these things is so that kids are not just doing memorization, but they're able to think through math programs. So that's math problems in their head and explain it. So which actually does benefit them extremely well. And I will tell you, my daughter is, she's sophomore in college right now. So, but I will tell you, her class was one of the first with the new math standards that were implemented in the new math curriculum way back when in Jeffco. And her class was the largest. In fact, one of our board members as a teacher at her school, we were the largest algebra class ever to happen in 7th grade. So with a group of some pretty advanced kids, and that's with those curriculum changes. So it's something to think through. And then that impactful, empowering the families to support their child's success. We don't want to be the complaint session. So it doesn't come in and I don't like what, Mrs. White is doing to my kid. I don't like the way she treats her. It is never an individual complaint session, and it is never, ever, ever about individual children. In fact, we should very rarely talk about our kids during those meetings. We talk about all of the kids. What do your family wants? Again, where do you want me to go? You need to answer that question. What do you want me to do? How can I gain from spending my time in this way rather than sitting at home and finally relaxing? How and when are you telling me? Is it just on social media? Have we forgotten that we had social media? Are you sending it to me via email? There's some, groups that use texting and stuff like that too, through some different methods. So they're all really great ideas. Telling people multiple ways is really great. A lot of people don't answer phone calls these days. So in writing is almost always better. So, but once we have a relationship, I can get to you and have a conversation with you, have Starbucks with you. I'm a big Starbucks junkie, as most of you know. So, but getting that one-on-one connection and telling you why I want you there, and what will benefit and what your special talents and skills are, and how you can help other kids at our school. How will it benefit me, my child, and my family? Answer all of those questions when you meet with someone to recruit them. The ideal PTA meeting. Welcome. Thanks to attendees. We're so thankful for you for coming and giving up your evening. We know it's hard, so we get it too. We also flew by McDonald's, and darn, my kids eating fried food again. So, and I gave them a soda, but I needed to make PTA. But regardless, we appreciate you all that are here. Thank you so much. Quick business agenda. We got to cover what's going on. Amy gave a perfect example of everything that we had tonight. So sorry, Eddie is saying hi with a ball and trying to give it to me. So if you know Eddie, that's my dog. Quick business agenda, votes, reports, anything that we need to do can be done in advance. A lot of those board reports, Jeffco PTA is a good example that people don't actually see that what we do. Every board member on Jeffco PTA is required to submit a board report so that we all know what everybody else is doing. We can read through those board reports quickly. We don't all have to go through and give our reports. What's bylaws doing? So, okay, what's diversity doing? What's membership doing? What's treasury doing? We do all those things. We do it via email before, and that's why it's really, really important. Quick announcements if as needed. So Sasha's a really great, example here too. So that's another program that we wanted to learn a little bit more about. So maybe we have announcements from some other nonprofit entity in the community, or hey, we're going to move next month's meeting. We had to change the date because whatever. Giving a program of value that I'm going to benefit from. Now, sometimes you'll have a principal teacher report. Make sure when you do this, if you do this, that that doesn't end up being an hour-long conversation, the principal report. So if it's part of the PTA meeting, it usually ends up being, for those of us who have our PTA meeting and then a school accountability meeting back to back, one way or another. Usually the principal report will go in between that. Part of it that is a courtesy to our principals because they give up so much time. Gosh, especially in secondary principals, even more meetings for them and events, student events. But they give their report in the middle of the two meetings. We adjourn PTA and you go into the next meeting. So new business, if there's anything that's needed, thank you everybody for your time. Try to go through and thank everybody on their way out if you can. You and your board members that are there have an agreement that you're going to do that. Really chat them up and see how many more people can come back because we've made it so welcoming. Now then we're going to send a follow-up email to all members because we know we have 400 kids at the school. We have 800 parents, 800 family members who might be interested in PTA. Not everybody's going to come. Can you imagine if we had a PTA meeting that large? Oh, thank goodness we don't. So, but a lot of times we do have those people for events. So send me an email so I can follow up on here's what's going on in those committees and I can contact this person. So if I want to get involved and here's what happened at our meeting and here was the program. Jeffco PTA, I do love that we do have these Zoom capabilities these days. It was great at our high school too, before Morgan graduated, because we could record the meetings and put them out there and people would literally, within an hour of the meeting being done, be emailing me asking for the video of the meeting. So I want the video, I want the video. Well, it has to process and then I have to download it, then I have to upload it so to YouTube. So people do watch those. So these are really important. Here's some of the things that really do poll well with parents. So if you don't do a parent survey, think about this. School safety is still the #1 polling topic amongst parents nationwide. So, and you all know I can help you with that. So through the DeAngelis Foundation, however you need me. Neurodivergent services, special education, gifted and talented services. So we can do various programs to help the various kids in our schools. And it's also important to note when you do those, hey, you may not have a kid who's identified gifted and talented. You may not have a kid who's identified 2E, twice exceptional, may not have even heard it. You may not have a kid who's identified as neurodivergent. It just means that a lot of them haven't been identified. So it's still a very good program to come to, even if you don't think your kid falls into it. Health and wellness is a big one. Behavioral health, obviously. You've got Dr. Lori Odom here, who is a rock star to bring some of those things. Obviously, Jeffco PTA for years and years has made a commitment to suicide prevention. That's a huge one, and we want to make sure that we continue to hold that. Math and science support at home. That's a hard one for parents. That is such a hard one for parents. How do we handle it? Not only that, but then we have to start talking about how far do we go as our kids get into secondary education? What is my barrier? So I don't become helicopter parent or any of those kind of things. It's good for a teacher or educator to explain, now here's the time to let your kids fail and falter if they're going to, so that we learn the skills before we get out of the protective home and go on to college or career. We want to make sure that we have access for all of that. We know what our boundaries are, and we let our kids have some of the mishaps and failures so that they're ready to go as adults. And that's a really hard one. I get it. So with not having a kid at home anymore, I actually get to go, I get her tonight. So just for the night, but I get her tonight. I'm so excited. Understanding test scores. This is another one of those big ones. I've always been huge into data. I was chair of the district accountability committee in Jeffco. Did all the school accountability committees all the way through all of our schools as well. And helped other schools with their school accountability committees. I love data. So meaningful data, though, is another one of those really, really important topics. We need to make sure that we're advocating so that we're not just wasting time or Implementing tests, some of the way tests have been implemented over the years haven't been phenomenal. So we don't want to, and even the testing companies, we don't want to penalize our educators. So for how good or not good my kid is at taking tests, that's a problem. How to improve my parenting skills. So what do I need to worry about before my kids, get a device? What do I need to worry about before my kids starts dating other kids? So, and that happens in late elementary school. With mine, it happened for the first time in kindergarten. So as soon as you start dating other kids, so we need to have those conversations on a regular basis. What do the conversations look like? So I am always happy to give you a bunch of resources and different names, different programs that we can bring into your PTA to make this big. And what is advocacy? What is effective advocacy? You can go into a principal's office and scream about things all you want. That is not effective advocacy. You can say your kid's being bullied over and over again. So if we don't describe the behavior and do advocacy correctly, we're not going to get a correction to the problem that we're looking to address. So we teach advocacy. It isn't just going to the Capitol to testify. There's so many different things that are parts of advocacy, whether it's safety patrol issues at school. So getting kids, music programs, library programs, those are all huge. Again, don't forget the T. Your PTA will be much more successful if we have collaboration and effective advocacy. We teach parents not to come in with guns blazing and blaring and screaming and cussing. We teach them to advocate appropriately so that we find out what the issue is. We address the behaviors, we come up with a plan, and we do follow up. That's how we do it in a school. And your principal will love you for this. And I think this is probably part of the reason I had such good relationships with all 10 of my principals. So when we were in Jeffco, we had a couple substitutes in there too for emergency stuff. Classified staff, this is really important. That school secretary had better be your best friend if you're a PTA leader. They can help you so much. Facility manager, janitors, they're cleaning up after your PTA meeting, sometimes during the PTA meeting. Partnership with that. They're cleaning up after the meetings, after the events, after the activities that we have. So those are your best friends. In fact, my facility manager, the evening facility manager at my elementary school was one of my best friends. And because she worked evenings, she and I actually ran the limo to lunch event for the kids as the fundraising award. And she was the person, because her kids also went to the school, who helped me with that every single year of that fundraiser. And also be careful when you do some of those fundraisers, make sure the fundraisers are accessible to every family. We had, when we walked into our school, we just do direct donation. We write checks. Problem was nobody was writing checks. So, and a lot of people didn't want to do it. We implemented some of those selling things fundraisers, and they had rewards and things like that with it too. Kids really loved it. And the number of parents who came up to me afterwards who said, thank you for bringing that back, because we have not had a way to help our school because we can't write big checks. So that's really important. Not everybody's going to have the same privilege as you, but who are the other people in your school? Special ed, ELL. So for English language learners, my EL teacher actually came in. We held a special event about PTA for those parents. And we actually even had, people who were in there to do translation services. We actually brought in our elected officials for the area so that our EL families could meet our elected officials and tell them what things were like for them as someone who was not a non-English speaker. That was a great partnership. And I can say we had a few meetings a year that were just for those parents. And 3/4 of the families who came to those meetings joined our PTA. They couldn't always understand my emails, but they had them translated. And every single one of them, 3/4 joined PTA. So that's a big one. Who are your specialists? So maybe you've got some PTs in there, OTs, which is, let's see, that's my bad practice, right? Physical therapists, occupational therapists who work with kids, involve them too, to make sure that they're part of it. Our AMP teachers, art, music, PE, so physical education, get forgotten on a regular basis. Our special ed, SPED, forgotten on a regular basis, and so do those families. Social workers should always be a part of absolutely everything that you're doing. Knowing that behavioral health is crucial for our kids, knowing that our suicide rates are still #1 in Colorado, that person should be one of your best friends that you work with in your school. It's just crucial. Counselors, APs, assistant principal, everybody needs to be communicated with. Nothing matters if you don't communicate. Again, email, social media, newsletters, principal communications, teacher communications, website. There's lots of different ways. Tell people in all the ways that you possibly can. If you go through, social media is really wonderful in that you can go through and schedule things like a month in advance, and the post just appears so you don't have to work quite as hard. That's really nice. Agenda several days in advance with info on the programs, but those dates at the beginning of the year and what the topics you think are going to be, send that out. Post on social media regularly. So if you only post every once in a while, right now, those platforms are downgrading your posts and they don't present them to people as much as they used to. So that's one of those problems with pages. Ensure event dates are listed on a website, sent via email, put in the newsletter, remind everyone to add it to your calendars. Now, here's another one of those things. Adding things to, maybe a little, business card kind of thing. You print out, little business cards that you get at, Office Depot, and you can print it all on your own. Adding those dates and things to that an 8.5 by 11 pieces of paper, because all of us who've had kids know what happens to that 8.5 by 11 sheet of paper when we get into our car with our kids to go drive them to activities or whatever. At some point, it's going to rain or snow or slush or something. Our kids are playing in the mud, and all of a sudden, somebody steps on the 8.5 by 11 sheet of paper, and that handout is now trashed. So anytime you can give something smaller that fits in the back of your phone, into those little things, it's a really wonderful way to do handouts in that way, or do things digitally. Check your spelling and grammar. Remember, we support education, so we don't have too many errors in there. So we don't have one of, I've got friends too who you're just going to add an apostrophe before, every S on every word, go through that and just work through it together so that we can double check that spelling and grammar. Welcoming climate and culture. This is crucial for everything for kids. If your school and your PTA has a welcoming climate and culture where everybody feels like they have a place, your kids are so much better off. Your staff is so much better off. And we advocate for those things in our school communities as well. Thank you goes a long way. So make sure you show appreciation. Your leadership role, when you're leaders of the PTA, have each other's back. Absolutely have each other's back. You're going to have screw ups, and that's okay. You back each other up. You do the best as you can. We do Robert's Rules of Order or Bob's Rules of Order. We follow our duties as described in the bylaws. We back each other up. If we need help, we do that. Communications, make sure that we're including families and staff in everything. Child advocacy, those are your jobs. Duties as described by bylaws, communications, and child advocacy. So it doesn't seem as big. Now we do that recruiting, and we make sure that there are more people to have our back, and we build our village. That's all I have for you tonight. So you can reach me at bylaws@jeffcoatpta.org or contact your AAVP, who are all lovely, lovely people. So I see there were some emails. Okay, I love your comment. Got bedtime, solo parenting tonight, get it? So we will post the video. Yep.
Shauna, thank you so much. That was terrific. That was really helpful and informative.